Morning, Minister. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you all?
So, everybody, I'd like to welcome the Honourable Sarah Mitchell, Minister for Education, Early Childhood and Learning, to the 2020 PNC Federation AGM. Warm welcome to you this morning, or warm's probably not the word for it because it's quite cold this morning, but a beautiful day nonetheless. So I will hand the floor over to you, Minister, for your words.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tim. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to catch up with you all, albeit virtually. I think one of the joys of COVID is that we still get the chance to see each other in a slightly different way, but it probably makes life a bit easier, particularly for organisations like yours, and I think also for regional MPs like me. I'm coming to you from Gunnedah this morning, which is nice to be home on a Saturday morning. Can I just obviously acknowledge country? I'm in Gunnedah, as I said, so I come to you from Gamilaroi land and want to pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal people. Look, I think it's certainly fair to say that 2020 has been a year like no other, and I think when we started the year, particularly in our school communities, a lot of the concerns that I had over summer were those who were battling through drought and then obviously the terrible bushfires that we had. But little did we know what was just around the corner, and the pandemic of COVID-19 and what that was going to mean for many in our school communities. I think that we have been more distanced than we would normally be for a lot of our schools, and I think for many organisations, but particularly yours in terms of the PNC and how integral you are to each and every one of your school communities. I think it's certainly been a challenge. I think for us, particularly in New South Wales, and it's interesting, I obviously speak quite regularly to my colleagues in other states as well, but given the size of our public education system in New South Wales, the number of students, the number of staff, the number of families, some figures I saw the other day, our community is more than 1.7 million people when you add everybody in together. So I think that makes it pretty clear that of all those 1.7 million people, I think everyone's had to make adjustments in their day-to-day lives as we deal with COVID. I think the way, first of all, that our schools have been able to adapt really incredibly well to the challenges of the year, obviously going from starting the school year normally to the learning from home period to being back, that ability to adapt and change has been something that I think is really quite remarkable. And I know when we have had positive COVID cases that affect our school communities, and we have had quite a few, I think we're up to more than 50 now when you look across the three sectors, but they're handled incredibly well. The partnerships with health, the advice that goes out, that reinforcement by parents, I think that everyone has done a really good job to get the health messages out there, to know that when there is a positive case, we can clean, we can contact trace, and we try to make it as least disruptive as possible for students. And I know that that communication, particularly that goes out to parents and carers and families, and the way that advice has been heeded, has just made everything so much easier, even though I know sometimes things do happen at very short notice and it's been challenging. But for me, I think it just better reflects, how well our schools really are that centre of our community, and we see that right across the state. I think also too, the way that we've been able to, as I said, transition to that learning from home. Fascinating to look at how well that's worked in so many of our school communities. Being able to provide a lot of digital and technology support to our schools was very helpful, but really for me as Minister, seeing the whole way that schools responded. Some were obviously using online and digital technology. There were others who sent packs out, a lot sent a combination of the two. And I think there's been some really innovative ideas and teaching practice that has come through that. But also to me, it's highlighted some of the challenges too, particularly around access to technology, when we were able to survey our school communities and see who actually had that support and access at home. Being able to get a better idea of where some of the gaps are, I think will be useful in the future. I think everyone has really appreciated what teachers have done over that time, but I would also say I think the appreciation to parents. I think that the way that a lot of our families had to adapt to having children at home, helping them with their schoolwork, it's something that I personally experienced as well. Some of you probably know my eldest daughter, she's in year 1 at Gunnedah South, and learning from home. We had good days and we had bad days, and I suspect that's probably the case for a lot of parents across New South Wales. So when people were saying to me, when are we going back to school, I was very happy to have her back in the classroom with her teacher, but I think a lot of our parents and carers just were incredible as well. So it really was a team effort to make that period a success. And like I said, I think now the way that we're able to really have that process in place where we just close the schools when there's a positive case and really try to keep that continuation of learning happening everywhere. That's certainly my intention, to be able to do that for the rest of the pandemic if we can. Obviously, every decision we make is based on health advice, and we'll continue to do that. But I think at the moment, the way that we're handling it is going pretty well. I guess the other point to make is with some of the digital stuff we've been able to do. So we had the Learning from Home digital hub, which a lot of parents and families access to provide those resources. And we also have set up a special hub for our Year 12 students as well, where they can get assistance from that right up from now until their exam. So we're trying to embrace the technology as best as we can. We had packages where we made sure that every Year 11 and 12 student had access to a device. And I know a lot of P&Cs were very beneficial in helping students access those as well. So I think, as I said, it was really a team kind of collaborative effort to make that successful. And I suppose the last point I want to make, and then Tim, I'm happy to take questions or just have general feedback and chat. But I think the year, in terms of the restrictions, the difficulty that there has been with not having external visitors on site, what that's meant for parents, what that's meant for P&Cs in terms of your fundraising abilities. Like I said, that's something I see as a mum at our own school, not being part of those normal activities and not being able to do the fundraisers that we would normally do. It is a challenge, and I think that that's something that we're going to have to be cognizant of. But again, I think it's just about making sure we follow that health advice and get through 2020 supporting each other, and then hopefully sooner rather than later we'll be back to the best sense of normal that we can get to, and go back to usual transmission.